Okay, so hi everyone, this is Kenny, and we have Trombley on the other side. Hi Trombley.
Hello, Kenny.
Yeah, so Trombley was having some questions about the code base and also some generic questions in terms of how to write some code in Node.js or JavaScript. So we are
Okay.
actually looking into uh, a certain file inside the Twitter module. So I'll go ahead and let Trombley ask his questions.
Yeah, so I, the file is present in utils folder, and the tweet info.js is the file. So I have
Okay,
the question like why we are using promises here. So can you elaborate on that, Kenny?
this first line, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so here what we have in terms of the code is there is a require for fs and then dot promises, and then from that we are creating a write file. That is the code, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so to understand this, there are a few concepts involved. At least
Mm-hmm.
the first concept to understand is what does require mean. Okay, so what required us is require tries to import a certain module from somewhere. From where is a question. So that is something that Node will automatically figure out. So if you
Mm-hmm.
see the line 3, you will see that there is a require function and there is a dot slash process tweet entities. Okay.
Yeah.
So that what is happening is the dot slash means that it is a file in our own repository. So this require call will import this particular process suite entities file. If I'll just go back to the utils folder and what is the file name again?
Process tweet entities. Process tweet
Process suite entities.
entity.js.
Yes.
Right.
So that is that this file. So whatever is available on this file, and I think if we come down to the bottom of this file, there is a module export section. So these two functions would be what is available on when we are requiring this file. So essentially, coming back to the tweet info, right?
Mm-hmm.
Tweet info file. So that was how we in line 3 what we are doing is we are doing a dot slash, which means in our current folder. But in line 1 what we are doing is requiring an fs, which means that it is trying to either load some kind of a installed module that we have installed. For example, in this case of date functions, that is something module that we have installed ourselves using npm install. Okay, but in the case
Okay.
of fs, it is actually a Node.js native. What do you say? It is a native installed library that comes with Node.js when we install Node.js. Okay.
Is promise waiting for something like some modules to load?
Could you rephrase your question?
I mean, is promises the use of promises here is like, it's is it waiting for something to happen?
Yeah, okay. So I'll explain that. So what happens here is when we are requiring fs, huh, it is importing a module. This module
Okay.
could have multiple, it is called objects or properties. For example,
Mm-hmm.
this tweets, we have this tweets object in line 5, and inside that we can
Okay.
see there's a common and there's also a data, hmm, at the top
Yeah.
level. So that
User.
is line 6 and line 17. So similar to that,
Mm-hmm. Data. Yeah.
yeah, similar to that, inside the fs code, there would be an object similar to the common. There would be a properties, a promises object.
Okay.
So what is happening is Node.js will find that fs object, and then from that it will pick out the promises object.
Okay.
So
So Node.js is picking the promises object from the FS.
yeah, it is importing fs first, and then it is
Okay.
and we are saying we want only the dot promises part.
Okay. All right. All right. I
Uh,
got it.
so if I'll just open a new tab, and then I'll search for Node.js fs, and what will I get? So if I'm searching for that, I am brought to a link which says file system in the Node.js documentation. Okay. So if I open
Yeah.
that,
Yeah. I opened that.
It is like v15.1.0 documentation.
Yeah, 15.
Okay. So
Yeah, it's a kind of API thing, right?
yes, so essentially it is saying what all is available in this fs object. So if we scroll down or if we do a control F to find and we look at promise, and if I search multiple times, let me see. Okay, I'm not getting it in here.
Yeah, promises example is given.
Which one is it? Above at the top?
Promise example.
At the top, there is a promise example.
Yeah.
Okay, that they are mentioning a different way of importing the promise, I think. Um, Let me just see. So the thing with looking at documentation is, you usually have no idea what is happening here, and you have to somehow figure out, okay, what is it that you want. Okay. So in this case, we want to get something. When we are importing fs, we will get something like a dot promise. That is what we are looking for. So here, to be honest, I think I had gone through this code some time ago also when I saw the same dot promise to understand what it was, but now I'm not getting that location.
It's okay.
Mm,
Okay, I will take a look at it.
no, that is actually, what I'm trying to say is that is part of looking at documentation, because how they have
Okay.
organized their
Yeah,
documentation.
if I don't find, I have to search. I can search anything from here, no?
Yeah, you can
Like
search.
I can take a look at date.fns from this documentation, right?
Actually, no, because date fns that one we saw is not part of official Node.js package. It does not come pre-installed.
That must be that means that must have been a third party library. That's what it's
Yes.
called in.
So if you do
Okay.
look at date-fns in Google and just add an npm with a search. So I'm searching date-fns npm. Then it will show me the npm link to what date-fns is. So if I'm opening that, I am able to see the documentation for it. So how should we import it? How should we call the function? They have
Okay.
some
Okay.
sample code here.
Yeah.
So I'll do one thing. I'll once more go back to Google, and then I will. Mm, so fs.promise. I'll search for fs.promise, because that is the one we saw
Mm-hmm.
earlier, right? In the code, fs.promises. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I search for fs.promises, and I am getting a node.js.org link, and I
Yeah.
am opening that. Let me see this.
1023 document.
Yeah, it is 10.23. Uh, okay, I'm still not getting much idea about what is this. But the idea is, okay, I'll tell you, because I know a bit of the history, I can tell you what is happening. So what is happening here is the fs module. It gives us functions to work with a file system. That is why it is called fs. File system meaning whatever you have on your hard drive. So what happens is we want to interact with any. Hello, Trombley. Did I lose you there? Hello. Okay, I lost my network connection. Interesting. Let's just wait for it to reconnect. Okay, so I lost my connection because of some internet issue, and now we're back. So what I was trying to say is this fs, what is happening is it is giving us options to interact with our computer data. So fs stands for file system, which essentially means whatever files we have in our computer. So
Mm-hmm.
it provides functions like read file or write file, which will allow us to read the contents of a file or write contents of a file. So traditionally this fs, how it worked was using this concept called callbacks. So that is a common Node.js way of doing things. But modern coding people usually use this thing called promises. So what I'm
Mm-hmm.
assuming is that they added these promises option later, so that people can use it in the promises way. So write file is a function which will return a promise. So that is essentially what that first line of code is doing.
Okay. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. So I think
Okay.
out of the box, if you're coming and seeing what this is doing, it might not be immediately obvious, and the documentation at least was not very helpful, at least in that regard. Maybe if I'll
Yeah.
just search that exact line of code. Let me just see if someone else has written an article on it or something like that. Maybe then we can understand better. Okay, there seems to be some links, but yeah, usually that is what happens. We it's not immediately obvious when you open. Okay, getting a lot of pop-ups here. Okay, so it is not immediately obvious when you open a open like a documentation what is happening. So it is not your fault if you don't understand what is happening there. Often you need to look at multiple links. So here there is a Stack Overflow link. Just let's see if that helps. Uh,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
mm, okay, yeah, that is also not very promising. At least, yeah. So these things sometimes take time, and you need to spend some time on googling or whatever. So eventually it will click. So that's
Okay.
not a problem that you are facing alone. Everyone faces this.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
yeah. So
So
that is that. Yeah.
I will ask another question
Okay.
related to this code only.
Okay.
So somebody wrote a library function. Can you explain that?
Um,
Library kind of thing. I think
okay.
you wrote it. You wrote it, but
Library. Okay. One second. Let me figure out where it is. I think probably wrote it. I think it was in the CLI file inside CLI. One second.
it
Let's.
automatically creates a library if you don't have for saving the
Uh,
PDF thing.
okay, got it. Prepare CLI is in CLI. Okay, require utils library. Okay. I haven't gone through the code, but let us give it a try.
Okay.
Okay, so create library if not
I think
access.
Koru wrote it, or I think you made. Oh, some of
It is
you may have
Tolga.
written it.
Tolga wrote the code.
Okay.
Okay, so what is happening here? Okay, so now I have not seen this seen this file before, or I have not
Mm-hmm.
gone through this file before. So let us take a look at what we can understand from this file. So the first thing I might
Okay.
look at when I'm coming to a brand new file is what is it exporting? Hmm? Because
Mm-hmm.
that would be the most important things that someone else is using from this file, which gives a good
All right.
indication that this might be a good place to start off. Okay, so if I look at it, there is this thing called create library if not exists. That is at the bottom. Did you get to this file, by the way? It is in utils
Yeah.
library.
Yeah. It's open in my
Okay,
browser.
okay. So yeah, just for the others to understand, there was an issue with sharing the screen. So I am opening the same file, and Trombley is also opening the same file. So we are not exactly in sync, but I am trying to explain what I am seeing. Okay, so at the bottom in module exports, we have create library if not exists, and that is pointing us to a function on line 16, which is create library if not exists. Okay, inside that, if you look at it, the first line is fs.existsync, and it calls a function called get library path. So now what I would think about is, okay, do I understand what is meant by fs.existsync? Do you have any guesses?
I have no idea.
Okay, great. So now what we can do is, what is fs? We saw fs earlier, right?
Yes, file system calling file system
Yes. So we know what
of
fs is.
this our folder. Or
Yeah, so
of this Twindle.
so it is not specific to anything of a specific folder, but at least it gives us some kind of functionality which will let us interact with our computer directories. Okay, at least that is my initial assumption. So the thing about programming is it is not that you are understanding every single thing about every single thing, but you have some idea about what is happening in some places. That lets you guess a lot of things. So in this case,
That part I got it. Get library. I mean, it's asking for the library path where our
this part.
library is present.
Okay. So what I'm trying to say is this fs is letting us do something with the file system. Okay. And this exists
Okay.
sync, I
Okay.
have no idea what is happening there. So what I will do is I will just search for it. So I'm searching for what is fs.access sync. Okay. So I come back to the documentation. Let me see. Exists sync. Okay. So I'm able to see the particular function and I'm clicking on it. And what it says is it returns true if that path exists and false otherwise. Okay.
Okay.
And they have given a sample code here. So it is checking any path on your computer. It is if you give the path, it will check. It will tell you if it exists or not. So for example, if you point it to your desktop and then say abc.txt and it does not exist, it will return false. But if it does exist, it will return true. Got it.
Okay.
So now you understand what access sync does. Now if we come back to
But
our
while
code,
sync part, I mean,
sorry.
synchronously how? I mean,
Okay,
synchronously how it
yeah,
is.
that if you okay, so I mentioned about this callback thing, right? So
Okay.
so okay, to
Okay.
understand
I will take a look at it. Look into it.
so
What
it is.
it's doing
I mean,
exactly.
I'm okay with explaining because someone else might also understand. Okay.
It's all right then.
So if you look at most of the functions inside fs, there would be an function with a sync and there would be also a function without a sync. So if you look at the
Yeah,
documentation,
yeah. I saw the read and write sync and all these things in there.
yeah. So if here I have just opened that same documentation, so I am seeing fs.exists and also I am seeing fs.exists sync. So essentially what it's doing is um, exists will for exists you need to pass in a callback which will handle what is happening. So what happens is if it exists or not exists, it will call this function that we provide. Access sync, what happens is it will just run the command and return a value. So you don't need to pass in any function
Okay.
or anything. So it is like a quicker way to do it.
Mhm.
Hmm?
Okay.
The actual there is a performance reason behind it to have both of these. One is asynchronous, one is synchronous. So this one is synchronous. That is why it is called exists sync. But
Okay. Okay.
I don't think that is something you need to worry about right now. So it is fine. At least you
Yeah, yeah.
understand what
That's
is
fine.
happening.
Yeah.
And get library path function, we can guess that it might be getting us a path because access sync needs a path, and this thing will probably give us a path. So if you look at this function, that is just above in line 5. So it is looking at some.
So we are just searching the function where it is being defined and getting back to that where it what is its definition and then what it's returning. So these are the two important things.
Yeah.
So
So
that returning thing that function is giving it to this function existing, right? Get library path.
yeah. So what happens is this function is returning some kind of a path, and that value
Okay, library
comes in.
path that is being passed into the parameter, right? Yeah,
Yes.
parameter of existing.
Exactly.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Got
So that is what happens in line 17. So it looks in, it fetches the current library path, which is like it is doing some processing to figure out what is it, and from that path, access sync will check if it exists or not, and in this constant that variable that we have, it will have either true or false, right?
Okay.
Yeah. coming to the next line, we have if and an exclamation exists. Exclamation is like not, so it will be the opposite of what the value of exists is. So if exists is true, then not exists would be false, and if exists is false, not exists would be true. Okay. So how you would read this is like a common practice in programming. So if it does not exist, so it's very much a readable code in line 18.
Okay.
So if it does not exist, then what happens is we are console logging that no library is found, and then we are going to create a new library. And line number 25, we are doing fs.mkdir sync and get library path. So do you have any
taking a
guesses?
directory.
Yeah.
If it doesn't exist.
So it will just create a folder, empty folder.
Mm-hmm.
So that is
Okay.
essentially what it is doing. It is just creating an empty local folder, which is specified by the library path. Right, got it.
Okay, all right, got it.
So this code I think is run at the beginning. If I am coming back to the CLI index.js, it is doing this. I am opening the index.js in Twindle CLI, and
Okay.
there in line 12 there is a prepare CLI function,
Mm-hmm.
and inside that function, so this prepare CLI is coming from our require dot slash CLI.
Mm-hmm.
It is in line 4.
Yeah, our client that we were making, right?
That is the corresponding file that is here, cli.js, in the Twindle CLI.
Mm-hmm.
So there, if I come
Yes.
down, there is this prepare CLI, which is essentially calling create library if not exists. That is the one that we were looking at just now.
Okay.
Line 55, it is calling that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I understand.
So that is that question. Is that does it
Okay.
solve your doubt?
Yeah, it solved the problem. Thank you for that. And you know, now the two general question, I think. One
Mm-hmm.
is, how do if there are two, for example, two loops. One is a for loop and for each loop. Another one is a for each loop. How do I measure the execution timing of these two functions? If I want to compare which one is faster, which one is slow, can I
Okay.
do that in JavaScript?
Okay. So you want to have two. You want to compare two different types of coding
Yeah,
practice.
any function, not exactly loops or any
Mm.
function.
Since you mentioned about for and for each, typically
Yeah,
we
you can, yeah.
yeah typically we would not optimize. So there are a few things about coding practice. So typically we would try not to optimize things too early, and when we would use these kind of functions would be once we have it running in production or something like that, or we are like testing it and then we see that okay, something is causing a big bottleneck, it is taking too long for execution, only then we would be jumping into this kind of a function. And but when that case does come in, I think there is this function called console.time, if I'm not mistaken. I'm just googling for it.
Okay,
So
I think there exists something, so I will look into it.
yeah, so there is this thing called console.time from uh, Mozilla's Mozilla has very good documentation, MDN documentation. So it starts a timer to track how long an
Yeah, there is an
operation
API
takes.
there. Yeah,
Exactly,
there is an API time ends. Yeah, I saw that.
exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So
Correct,
I
correct.
mean, so the thing is, I have heard about this before. That is why I was able to search for it. Otherwise, you would like search for something in Google like how to measure um, time execution in JavaScript.
Yeah,
Okay.
I would do that. I would do that, but I thought, quickly I could ask you.
Yeah, I understand. But for others who are also watching this,
But yeah,
uh,
yeah, they have to search, they have to use Google first.
yes. So
But if Google doesn't answer you, you can just ask any.
yeah, that. But it's good to practice your googling skills because um, that is mostly, I mean, that is the main thing that's the only skill that will take you forward in your development career. Without that,
Yes, yes.
you just get stuck and frustrated. And if, I mean, you can only ask so many people, and I mean, eventually someone will Google it and give it to you. So it's much faster if you know how to do it. So
Yeah, yeah, correct.
so yeah, here I got a blog post. Someone is saying how to measure this execution. They are showing some different options. So that is essentially how we also like look for things. Figure out how to do these things. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
perfectly. Okay, so I have now nothing to ask, but if any beginner want to ask anything, they can go to our mentors like Kenny and Praful or other ones who have much experience. Just ask them. Don't be shy. That would I advise. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, then we can stop the recording, and I hope it was useful for you and also for anyone else who is watching this. So if anyone else has like, questions like these, if you have the same question again after watching this, you can ask Trombley. He will help you out.
Yeah, yeah, of course.
Okay. Okay, then I'm stopping the recording right now. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.